to do so. What we are concerned with is trying to establish what historical evidence shows the influence of what on what. And this is not a project which any of us here can complete at all. That many people must be involved in this, and it requires the thought and efforts of a lot of us to do it. We would like to think that it can be redone without rewriting history altogether, or without claiming that there has been a huge European cover-up of information. It is certainly true. You can claim that.
It is true.
Please remember, you must also show that it has been done. There are many things that Europe has been guilty of and responsible for. And certainly the covering, not the covering up, I don't mean to say that, but the absolute refusal to acknowledge the history of Africa, which I made reference to in my opening remarks, is something that we must continuously work on redressing. Much more must be learned, much more must be studied. I am very much in favor of that, and I believe that can start also in our teaching of American history, where in many cases the whole history of the African American contribution to American history has been ignored and neglected, and there are brilliant writers out there whose works are not being read. I think we should change all that.
No, you cannot mention American history without African history. African history has to come first before
some of
American
these
history.
important things. I would just simply ask, let us investigate carefully the degree of Egyptian influence on ancient Greece, but we must also investigate the Near Eastern cultures such as Phoenicia and the Hittites. After all, Phoenicia gave ancient Greece her alphabet. They didn't learn the alphabet from the Egyptians. It was too hard. It was easier to get it from the Phoenicians. And we must begin to work on those lines. I would like to see everyone work also on a period we haven't discussed much here tonight, where we really do see Egyptian influence on Greek culture, and that is in the Hellenistic period after Alexander got there and Greeks were living in Egypt. A huge number of Greeks were living in Egypt. There, I think you can see some real influence.
No, they won't. That's a lie. She's lying. She's confused.
This is now the third debate that we have had, and I'm very struck by what I see as a discrepancy between Mary Lefkowitz's speech and her
German
writing.
She's a Russian.
She's in speech, she is all sweetness and light, and for open debate and openness in culture. Her writing is very different. The title, Not Out of Africa, is extremely provocative, and it reads, the text carries on in the same way. And I'd like to quote to you a letter I received from probably the most distinguished active classicist in the world today, who actually agrees with her on the academic side. Nevertheless, he writes, "I do not find her exposition cool, detached, and reasonable, despite her efforts to make it seem like that. It is, in fact, as I wrote in my review, an impassioned polemic. Of course, Mary wants to look scholarly and detached, but hers is the scholarship of the National Association of Scholars, which is funded by the same people that funded Not Out of Africa, and that leads us back to where Professor Clarke began on the general political context in which this book has appeared."
Now watch Uncle Ben, Mr. Clarke himself, rock.
I will defend Professor Lefkowitz's innocence because she is a pawn in somebody else's game. As I said in the beginning, it is beyond the lack and dislike of Afrocentricity, which has not even developed enough to be called a discipline. It is a world war to prepare the mind to accept the re-enslavement of Africa.
That's right.
To remove from the mind of all people anything good that the African has done.
That's right.
And to ignore the fact
that's right.
that Europe set up Africa to fall apart.
That's right.
By imposing on Africa to miseducated Africans.
That's right.
A nation state. The nation state is un-African. The African thrives at his best in the territorial state.
That's right.
Many cultures, many languages, side by side, challenging each other, fertilizing each other. What you might call an empire. If you study the last 1,000 years before slavery, the development of independent states in the Western Sudan, Ghana, Mali, Sungay, destroyed by the invasion.
Here in the WBAI studios are Bayard Rustin.
Sorry about that.
Work on those lines. I would like to see everyone work also on a period we haven't discussed much here tonight, where we really do see is something.
1 second.
Some real influence.
This is now the third debate that
I did that because I want you to hear what Uncle Ben, Dr. Henry Clarke, is going to say straight up once again.
I would defend Professor Leskowitz's innocence because she is a pawn in somebody else's game. As I said in the beginning, it is beyond the lack and dislike of Afrocentricity, which has not even developed enough to be called a discipline. It is a world war to prepare the mind to accept the re-enslavement of Africa.
Woo!
To remove from the mind of all people anything good that the African has done, and to ignore the fact that Europe set up Africa to fall apart by imposing on Africa, to miseducated Africans, a nation state.
After we saved their behind.
The nation state is un-African.
That's right.
The African thrives at his best in the territorial state.
That's right.
Many cultures, many languages,
that's right.
Side by side,
that's
challenging
right.
each other, fertilizing each other.
That's right.
What you might call an empire. If you study the last 1,000 years before slavery, the development of independent states in the Western Sudan, Ghana, Mali, Sungay, destroyed by the invasion from North Africa by the Arabs attacking the North African Muslims, attacking the African Muslims, and destroying the great University of St. Korea, exiling its greatest scholar, Ahmed Baba.
That's right.
He admonished his students, believe in God and science. The Africans never separated God from science.
That's right.
The priest was scientists.
That's right.
The priest was the most knowledgeable person. That's why you had the concept of a priest God.
That's right.
Now, if they wipe this out of the mind of our children, and our children look at television and sound bites and think they were nothing but a nothing, when they re-enslave Africa, they're going to say, good Father. They're preparing us to accept it. They're preparing the world to accept the re-enslavement of African people all over the world.
That's right.
And I'm saying that this Leskowiz is a pawn in their game, and the tragic irony of it. She is the pawn in the game of people who turn their backs on her people and let them be killed by the millions.
That's right. That's right.
British intelligence, the intelligence of the Western world knew exactly what was happening to the Jews in Germany. We raised our voice against this in the old Harlem History Club, 1939 to the death of the leader in 1941. If you think that, or if we get into the nonsense about black anti-Semitism, blacks have always had a sentimental attachment to the Jews. They actually believe the Bible. You know, we are the true believers. We out Pope the Pope, we out Muhammad. But religion has always been a political thing to Europeans, and still is. And when it no longer serves them politically, they're going to discard it. They turned their backs and let this happen.
That's right.
Now they're creating a new game because Europe had spoiled Europe. They want to take some geography outside of Europe.
That's right.
They say the people they're going to take the geography from are unworthy. They can't rule themselves. Of course, they cannot rule themselves in artificial states set up by the Europeans.
That's right.
First thing the Africa has to do is to just get rid of these borders.
That's right.
Reestablish the borders along the old lines.
That's right.
And integrate Africans into Africa.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And now today, they want to change the narrative to be something that is used as a thing. So we have like a bunch America as well, who are sold out Americans. We have another group, you know what I'm saying, coming from the other side. They are all banding together, these nations, against these people, our people. You know what I'm saying? And we have to be careful with this one, because when we look at it, like Dr. Ben said, Dr. John Henry Clarke said, you know what I'm saying, when it took place in the Holocaust or whatever, Africans never agreed to that because we were fond of those people. So why would we have facilitated or even look towards them for the destruction of and genocide of a race, which didn't make much sense. You know, we could go into the details all the way through before, after all that, but it's still, when it comes down to the wires of it, though, you know what I'm saying, from what we saw, you know what I'm saying, or what was told or what was shown, did not show any mercy to a race of people in no shape or form. Africans do not do this. This is something was brought into Africa and is still there today. This is why they're coming up with all kinds of comprehensive plans to destroy the African race. So we must be aware of this one. This is Point Black, coming in hard on a news break and historical comment. 1.